Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my July 2022 TBR. So for this TBR, I tried to do a mix of my summer TBR, a couple of books from my June TBR, and then also just a couple of other random books to keep things fresh. So content warnings for all of the books that I talk about today will be linked down in the description below, and then a link to my Pride Month / June reading wrap up will also be down in the description. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I'm filming this video a couple of days into July, so we're going to start with the books that I have already started. And the main book that I have been focusing on recently is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. So this follows our main character Tavia, who has to keep her siren powers hidden, and then this also follows our other main character Effie, who is dealing with her own past and struggles. These two are trying to navigate these things together, but everything changes in the aftermath of a siren murder trial, and Tavia lets out her magical voice at the worst moment possible. Okay, so I am currently on page 170 out of 286, which means that we're almost at the end here. I have not really read a ton of modern fantasy during my time as a reader. It's just kind of a genre that I let sit around on my TBR for whatever reason. But I have to say that aspect of this story is really working for me here. And I think that the way the author has weaved these fantasy elements into a modern setting is really interesting. I don't know, I feel like the part of my mind that always makes me put off modern fantasy is because I'm always hesitant about the way the setting will come together. But lack of quality is not an issue here, like at all, and I do think the world was built really well in that sense. We also have two really compelling main characters here. I like both of them, and I like their sisterly relationship with one another. And I quickly found myself invested in their stories, and I'm definitely glad that I picked this book up as a whole, and I am so looking forward to finishing it. So next up is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This follows our main character who dresses as a boy and travels to the Summer Palace to achieve her dream of becoming a tailor to the Emperor at the risk of being discovered. However, she and 11 other tailors must compete in a series of challenges in order to prove their artistry and skills. So this is book 1 of the Blood and Stars. I believe it's a duology, and I literally just read the first chapter because I could not resist this book anymore. And I'll probably end up focusing more on this after I finish A Song Below Water because, like I said, I just need to read this, like, immediately. And that first chapter that I read was everything that I needed to confirm that statement for me. If you don't know, I absolutely fell in love with Six Crimson Cranes by this author a couple of months ago. That's this one. And as soon as I opened up this book and started reading, I was instantly back within this world because they're set in the same world, but also just being back with these authors' stories and writing just felt so comforting and like everything that I needed. And spending my time with this series definitely seems like the perfect way to pass the time until the Six Crimson Cranes sequel comes out, even though I also don't own the sequel to this one yet. So there may end up being some overlap, but that's completely okay as well, assuming the rest of this book continues going the way that I think it's going to. And I just cannot wait to continue with this. So next up is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko, which is the sequel to Raybearer. Raybearer is a West African fantasy that follows our main character Tarisai, who has been raised in isolation by her mother, who was often absent from her childhood. When she reaches the right age, her mother sends her to the capital to compete with the other children for a spot on the Crown Prince's Council. Each council member gets connected to the other through the Ray, which creates a very deep bond between all of the members. This is a closeness that Tarisai craves, however her mother made a wish for her to kill the Crown Prince, and she is being compelled to obey this. So this was a book that I ended up taking a break from, even though I absolutely hated doing that because I love this series. But I am vlogging it, and I started that vlog while I was finishing college, which was a terrible idea in hindsight because I just did not have the time. But now I do, and I have an ending of a vlog and a little over 100 pages left. And it's time to finally finish both of those things and make my heart happy, as this series often does. This is a sequel that has not gone the way that I thought it was going to go, which is something that happens to me quite a bit. But I still really love the characters, and I'm enjoying getting to know them more, especially some of the ones that we didn't get to see that much of in book 1, and then there are also like a ton of new characters that I've been really enjoying as well. And I also love the writing, and the story may not be what I was expecting, but I am really enjoying the one that we are getting. And I am just so excited to get back into this, even if I would not say that I was excited to finish this, because that would mean that it's over. Because I'm pretty sure this is a duology, but I guess that's what rereads are for. Okay, so from this point on, we're just going to go in alphabetical order, which means that first up is All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. This follows our main character who has spent her entire life training to be the Master of Souls, and doing so means that she will secure her place as heir to the throne. However, when her demonstration doesn't go the way that she planned, she is forced to flee with a mysterious pirate after she makes a deal with him. The sailing holds more dangers than she originally anticipated, and she has to face these things or else she will lose the crown forever. So this book is from my summer TBR, and I kind of just went with my instincts to pick like what books from that TBR ended up in which months, and this one just felt like July. Why? Who knows, but I'm gonna go with it. There are pirates and mermaids and princesses and magic and just a ton of stuff that sounds like a fun time and a fun summer read specifically. I am really curious to see what this book has to offer because I feel like I don't really know despite just reading the synopsis a couple of seconds ago. But what does attract me to this book the most is 1, the cover because it's pretty and blue, and 2 is just the potential of what the world and the setting could be because I feel like there's a lot of potential there and we'll see how it ends up going. So next up is Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, and this is the sequel to Black Sun. So these are book 1 and 2 of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, which is a trilogy that is inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas. It takes place in a city called Tova around the time of the winter solstice, which is usually a time for celebration and renewal, or it would be, but the solstice this year is around the same time as a solar eclipse, which according to the Sun Priest signifies an unbalancing of the world. At the same time, a ship begins its adventure toward Tova carrying a seemingly harmless passenger, but the captain does have her suspicions about him. So this was one of my most anticipated sequels, and I guess just books in general of the year. I didn't have the time that I wanted to back in June in order to read this, so here it is again. I say it all of the time, but I just need to know where this series is going to go, and I also just want to get lost in the story the way that Black Sun got me lost and invested in the story. Black Sun was also a book that surprised me some, because while I was pretty confident that I was going to like it, I was not expecting the level of love and attachment to it that I ended up getting. And I am just so grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to that feeling hopefully increasing very soon. So next up is The Gentleman's Guide to Getting Lucky by Mackenzie Lee, which is the novella, I think it might be 2.5, 1.5 to The Gentleman's Guide, The Vice and Virtue. So Gentleman's Guide follows our main character whose grand tour of Europe and quest for pleasure and vice is in danger. After the tour is over, he will be forced into taking over his family's estate and following all of the responsibilities that come with that. Therefore, he is determined to make the most out of this year-long tour with his sister and childhood friend slash crush, but his recklessness ends up turning this trip into a manhunt across Europe. So I read The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy last month, which is the sequel to Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and it just reminded me of how much that I love this series. And I haven't read this novella yet, so I am going to, and also hopefully haul the 3rd book soon. I am basically looking for 2 things from this. 1 is just a book that I can read in one sitting, and then 2 is just general cuteness and some fun, and I think this should have plenty of both. So as long as all of that is accomplished, and I do think that it will be, I should be having a really great time with this when the time comes. So next up is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that is set in 1920 Shanghai. There are rival gangs and a monster. Our main character has to team up with her first love and also first betrayal, and they have to set aside their guns and grudges in order to stop all of the mayhem. So I am in the mood for a good romance, which a lot of the books that are on this TBR can provide, and also a lot of the other books from my summer TBR besides this one can also hopefully provide. But my instincts told me to go with this one because the concept really intrigues me and I have a really good feeling about it. And then I've also heard really amazing things about this, and the setting sounds amazing and it just all sounds amazing, which is why I keep using that word. And it just sounds like something that I need in my life, and hopefully it will be in my life very soon. And the final book for this TBR is This Poison Heart by Kalynn Bayron. So this follows our main character who has a hidden power over plants. When she inherits a house from her birth mother, she also gains a space to test out her powers. But as she begins to bring the garden back to life, she uncovers that she has also inherited a secret, and her ancestors are not going to let her be until she accepts that she is the keeper of the dark power of the poison garden. There was no way that I was going to do this TBR without this book, not when it has such an interesting and promising concept, and definitely not after I finished Cinderella is Dead, which is also by this author, last month. And although I did have some complaints about that book, specifically about the ending, it was still able to provide enough good to get me more excited for this book than I already was, and that was a lot. I love the dark and twisty aspects of Cinderella is Dead, and there sounds like there's definitely potential for more of that in here. And then I also love the cover, I love the garden aspects, and hopefully I will love this book because I refuse to imagine any other reality. I just don't want to. Okay, so that is all of them. I am going to do my very best to get through this TBR this month because I realized that my summer TBR is longer than I originally thought it was. And also because I just want to read these books in general because they all sound like things that I desperately want and need in my life. So thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye.